The IEA just confirmed Europe has 6 weeks of jet fuel left. 30% of US exports are already being pulled away from them. And if you think that energy shocks stay on their side of the Atlantic, you haven't been paying attention to how the last 4 recessions started and then how it's going to affect real estate. Watch this.
April 16th, Fatih Birol, executive director of the International Energy Agency, told the Associated Press that Europe has maybe 6 weeks or so of jet fuel left. He called the Strait of Hormuz blockade the largest energy crisis we have ever faced. He said the pressure comes first to Asia, then to Europe, then to the Americas. No country is immune to this crisis. 6 weeks from that warning is late May, peak summer travel season. The airlines are already grounding planes. The air freight rates are already up 52%. And what's happening right now to families in Ireland and the UK and India and the Philippines is a preview of what arrives in America next. Because energy doesn't have borders, and the US is already shipping its own fuel supply overseas to keep Europe from collapsing. I need to show you what this looks like on the ground. Not macro, not charts, what's actually happening to people right now because of this war. Ireland, diesel up 28%, petrol up 25% since the war started. Fuel protests brought the country to a standstill. Farmers and truckers blockaded the M50. They shut down Ireland's only oil refinery at Whitegate. They blocked ports at Galway, Foynes, and Rosslare. 650 filling stations ran out of fuel. The army was called in. Police used pepper spray on crowds, including a 14-year-old. The government was forced into 750 million euros in emergency packages across 2 rounds. A no-confidence motion was tabled in Parliament. The UK, the Resolution Foundation calculated that UK households will be £500 worse off this year because of this war. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves called it a folly. Her words, the strongest criticism of Trump's war from any British government minister. She told the Mirror she feels very frustrated and angry that the US went into this war without a clear exit plan. UK inflation spiked to 3.3%, driven by an 8.7% monthly jump in motor fuel costs. Sharpest rise since Russia invaded Ukraine. The Bank of England was supposed to cut rates this year. Financial markets now expect no cuts at all. Rate hikes are on the table. Mortgage rates are climbing. Employment is falling. Wage growth is stalling. Costs going up while paychecks stall and jobs disappear. That's the stagflation trap in real time. British farmers are threatening to blockade roads the same way the Irish did. An economist said the Irish fuel protests are a sign of what's to come elsewhere. Norway. Truck drivers descended on Oslo in a diesel roar protest. Germany. The government announced a 1.6 billion euro emergency package. India. 60% of the country's cooking gas is imported through Hormuz. Long queues for LPG cylinders. Restaurants in Mumbai shutting down because the cooking gas ran out. Sri Lanka. The government reintroduced a 4-day work week. Long queues for petrol. People missing work to sit in fuel lines. Thailand. Diesel prices nearly doubled. The government told citizens to raise their air conditioning temperatures and reduce their clothing to save energy. Philippines, a national energy emergency was declared. Australia, only 29 to 36 days of fuel reserves. This is not abstract data. These are people choosing between filling the tank and buying groceries. Workers who can't get to their jobs. Farmers who can't afford to run the equipment that grows the food. Restaurants closing because the cooking gas ran out. An entire country brought to a standstill. I want you to hear this clearly. What's happening in Ireland and the UK right now, the protests, the inflation spike, that's the preview.
Hey, real quick, if you're watching this, you're going, hey, this is pretty bad. This is some pretty screwed up stuff. Well, trust me, it is. Every time fuel rises for an extended period of time, whether it be jet fuel or diesel or unleaded, it leads to recession. Prices of homes come down and it's an awesome time to buy, but you need to know where you are in that cycle. Link to 4 courses, real estate crash bundle, 4 courses on real estate cycles, how to deal with bear markets and how to sell those homes, how to even put them on social media. It's going to blow your mind. One link down below. Now let's get back to the video.
The US is weeks behind on that timeline. Because the US is shipping 150,000 barrels of jet fuel per day to Europe, every barrel sent to London is a barrel that didn't stay in Houston. Gas is already up over $1 per gallon since the war started. It's costing the US economy $500 million more every single day. That means you're paying roughly $740 more for gas this year. The refund the press called good news doesn't even cover the gas increase. You're net negative before you buy groceries. Summer airfare up 10 to 15%. International trips to Europe up 20%. Your budget is over before you book it. Air freight rates from North America up 52% year on year. Fuel surcharges of 10 to 30% flowing through every imported shipment. Fresh produce, dairy, seafood, medicines, electronics, all move partly by air. Those surcharges take 30 to 60 days to reach the grocery receipt. That means your grocery bill next month reflects what happened at the Strait last month. The food price increase is still in transit. Air cargo moves 1% of global trade by weight, but 35% of emergency parts by value. European auto assembly lines depend on it. When European jet fuel runs out and cargo capacity compresses, those lines slow or stop. Those lines serve North American demand. When people see gas and grocery costs jump, their inflation expectations immediately increase and they freeze. They stop buying cars. They stop buying houses. They stop making every large purchase because they don't know what happens next. The spending freeze already happening in Europe arrives here. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was asked about the economic pain on allies. His response? I wonder what the hit would be if a nuclear weapon hit London. Now step back. Because this crisis isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening inside a geopolitical fracture, rewriting who trades with whom. The U.S. started the war that closed the Strait. While Europe absorbs the damage, the U.S. is simultaneously imposing tariffs on the same allies. Trump imposed tariffs on 8 NATO allies over Greenland. Allies flying NATO aircraft over the same theaters the U.S. operates in. The Baker Institute published it plainly. A rupture in the world order has occurred. Beijing and Moscow are probably celebrating right now. The rest of the world is not fragmenting. It is forging ahead on trade agreements with or without the U.S. The world is splitting. On the other side, BRICS. 9 of the 10 largest oil producers, building financial infrastructure to bypass the dollar entirely. Oil transactions in yuan. In the middle, Europe, the UK, Canada, Australia, Japan. Caught between an ally that's coercing them and a bloc offering alternative trade infrastructure. European policymakers considered closing or reclaiming U.S. military bases. The alliance that managed every crisis since 1945 is fracturing during a crisis. The energy crisis, the alliance fracture, and the financial restructuring are one story. The war closed the Strait. The closure exposed dependency. Now, when does this reach the U.S. in full? Because right now, you're feeling the first wave, the gas increase, the airfare increase, the grocery receipt. As of this recording, the Strait is not open. Ship traffic remains minimal. Iran's parliament speaker says reopening is impossible while the blockade continues. Even in the best case, it takes until July for oil flows to reach 90% of pre-war levels and another 2 months to arrive at refineries. Late May. If European aviation enters rationing, fewer flights means less cargo capacity. Watch the flight cancellation announcements. June and July, the air freight surcharges reach grocery shelves. This isn't a spike, it's a repricing. The new normal is higher. And here's the scenario nobody in the US is preparing for, but needs to hear. Australia already discussed triggering formal rationing authority. If the exports keep flowing east, the US moves from price shock to supply constraint. Energy lockdowns, fuel rationing, restrictions on driving. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve has already been drawn down significantly. The buffer is thinner than it's been in decades. This can happen again. The alliance that held the Western economic order together for 80 years is under strain. If the alliance that managed every crisis is fracturing, who manages this one?